Garage sales are a great way to declutter your house, but before you have your next one, you may want to consider doing a little research on what you have. A lot of collectors go around to these sales hoping that people have no idea what they have. For them, it's all about collecting or making money, and your next garage sale may be a gold mine for them. In this video, we will take a look at some of the 1970s items that could make you rich. Barbie has remained popular with little girls since it first came out on the market in 1959. Throughout the years, there have been many different versions of this doll. A few of the special edition dolls are worth a heck of a lot more than their original sticker price. The Talking Busy Barbie doll was a pretty high-tech popular one in the 1970s. These unique dolls had functional hands that allowed them to hold specific items like a television, telephone, or a record player. If you have a doll in excellent condition, and if it's in the original packaging, it could bring anywhere from $60 to $500. The Nancy Drew books have been popular since the 1930s. Tons of devoted readers and collectors have been drawn to this series. Because of that, some of the original editions still hold some value. But some of the other items can also be pretty valuable. This hard-to-find lunchbox and thermos from the late 1970s can be found for $40 to $100. It's no secret that sports fans are some of the most devoted fans out there. They can shell out tons of money on their favorite sports team. Companies know this, and that's why you can see a huge array of sports memorabilia. In 1971, Sports Illustrated got into the action by creating its first baseball board game. Over the next couple years, they released new editions, and if you find one today, they can fetch a pretty penny. They usually sell anywhere from $90 to $150, depending on what you have and the condition. Superman has remained one of the most popular superheroes, and over the years there have been a lot of different items with his image. If you have some old Superman items, make sure you look through them closely before you sell them. Comic books were readily available, and it may be in your collection. Depending on what you have and the condition it's in, it could bring anywhere from $3 to $8,600. Practically every home in the 1970s had a good set of Pyrex dishes. Moms and grandmothers would fix casseroles in them, and for some reason they just seemed to taste better when they were in them. If you somehow acquire their collection and you don't want them, just know that there are plenty of people out there that do want them. They are still incredibly popular, and some people scour thrift stores and antique shops just looking for them. Some of the sets can sell for an average of $100 or more. Fashion jewelry was extremely popular in the 1970s. Funny thing is, much of it has come back in style and it is in high demand. If you have some of this, then you definitely want to consider having an appraiser look at it. This older jewelry is more likely to have been made out of gold or silver and have some precious gemstones in it. Old trunks are always exciting to find. You never know what treasures may be hiding inside. But aside from that, the trunks themselves can be worth quite a bit. In the 70s, they were more likely to be made out of solid wood. This meant that they were durable, and people now realize that they are. If for some reason you are downsizing or just don't have room for it, then don't set it outside for the trash. Some of these antique chests and trunks can sell for $100 and upwards of $700. Long before kids wanted an Apple Watch or even a Swatch watch, they had watches that featured their favorite toy. A lot of the 1970s watches can hold some value, and especially if they are in great working condition. Take for example this Hot Wheels watch. It's one of the best sellers of the decade, and it can bring anywhere from $30 to a couple $100. Today, a penny seems like nothing, and perhaps it is. After all, it's only worth a penny, right? Well, that's not exactly the case for all of them. If you have a bunch from the 1970s, then you could be sitting on a fortune. Take a close look at them and compare them to an online pricing guide. Some of them are a little more rare, and especially so if they have some sort of misprint. A penny like that may turn into $1 or even several hundred. In the 70s, vinyl albums were the way to go when you wanted your own music. People spent hours in the record store looking for that next album to add to their collection. Many younger folks today get their music through online streaming sources such as YouTube, but some have also come to realize how cool these old vinyls were. In fact, sales of these vinyls in the last 10 years have been the highest since the late 1980s. If you have a collection of these and you would like to get rid of them, then definitely do your research on what you have. Some may only be worth $5, while others could be $150. A Beatles album from the 1970s could go for a couple hundred to possibly $1,000. Many of us have fond memories of filling Pez dispensers with candy. This company goes all the way back to the 1930s, but they really took off in the 1950s. Throughout the years, there have been a ton of variations on the market, which has led to many collectors trying to get their hands on them all. There's even a Pez price guide, which can help you determine the value of your 70s Pez dispensers. You may have some that are worth $100 to $200 each. Cuckoo clocks have become a cultural icon of Germany, and they were created in the southwestern part of the country in the 1850s. They are still being made today, but many people have opted for the battery-operated digital clocks instead. No matter what, there will always be people interested and mesmerized by the cuckoo clock. Because of that, your family clock may be worth $100 or more. Some of them have a lot of details in them, and the more they have, the more they could be worth. There's no doubt that Star Wars took the world by storm beginning in 1977. Since that time, it has become one of the most successful and profitable movie franchises. When the original Star Wars figures came out from the toy company Kenner, there wasn't enough to meet the demand. Some kids at the time missed out on getting them, and now that they are grown adults, they want them. If you have some of these figures in the original packaging and they are in excellent shape, then they could bring several $100s. Have you looked at the prices of magazines today? They're not cheap. They seemed a lot more reasonable in the 1970s. Not only that, but the content inside seemed better. Many magazines have discontinued print altogether, and the ones that are left are thinner. Some of these old magazines from the 1970s hold no value at all, while others certainly do. Keep an eye out for covers with celebrities, key moments in history, and special editions. That old magazine that you paid $1 for in the 1970s could be double the price now. Some editions could bring $50 or even a lot more. The condition and content is key. Fisher-Price has been a household name with families since the 1930s. The Little People toy line is one of the originals, but over the years it has grown to more than 5,000 toys. Many of the Fisher-Price sets that kids had in the 1970s are now collectible just because of the memories that some people had with them. Certain ones can be worth $25 to $150 if they are in great condition. The Lionel Train Company has been producing model trains and railroads since the early 1900s. Since that time, they've become a favorite among collectors. There are a lot of them out there, and their value depends on their design and production date. The Mickey Mouse Express Railroad set from 1977 is not only popular among model train enthusiasts, but also Disney collectors. No matter what, check out what you have. Certain ones could be worth $1,000 or more. The Mego Company went bankrupt in 1982, and at that time they stopped producing action figures. But for about a decade prior to that time, they became known as the world's greatest action figure company. Many of these old figures are now worth a wad of cash. The original Robin the Boy Wonder figure from 1973 is worth the most. The original version came with a removable mask, and later versions came with it painted on. That tiny piece of cloth was often lost by children who were playing with the toy, so if you have one of these, it could fetch thousands of dollars. Whether you collect these items or you're going to sell these items, it certainly doesn't hurt to do a little research on them. You really never know what you are sitting on at your house. Some of these items you may have, or you could inherit them, and they could be worth a fortune. Many people who lived in the 70s want some of these items back, and even some of the younger folks who weren't alive yet would love anything from the decade. What are some of the 1970s items that you still have? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching.